The market was loud, filled with shouting, laughing, and cruel eyes. Beings from many planets stood around the slave stage, waiting to buy. Chains clanked, whips cracked. The air smelled like dust, sweat, and fear. Leora stood on the stage. Her skin was pale purple, bruised and dirty. Her silver hair was messy and hung over her face. She didn't look up. She didn't want to see the crowd. Her arms were tied. Her legs were weak. She had not eaten in days. The auctioneer, a fat alien with 4 eyes, pulled her hair to make her lift her head. Next slave. He shouted, cheap price, used, but still pretty. She was a dancer once, Leora flinched. She hated those words. She was not a thing. She was not for sale. But here she was. Again, the crowd laughed. One alien yelled, she looks broken. Already. Another said, I'll take her for 10 credits and break her more. Leora closed her eyes. She waited for someone to win her. She didn't care anymore. Nothing could be worse than what she had already been through. Then, a voice spoke, quiet, calm, deep. I'll pay 20. The crowd turned. The auctioneer raised his brow. Oh, a new bidder? A tall man stepped forward. He looked different. Human, middle-aged, worn brown coat, scratches on his face. Cold, gray eyes. His voice was soft, but strong. The auctioneer smiled. A human with taste. Going for the damaged ones, eh? The crowd laughed again. Leora's heart froze. A human? She had heard stories. Humans were rare in these markets. Some were cruel, some were kind, but no one could be trusted. Someone whispered, he's the one who buys broken girls for torture. Leora trembled. Her legs shook. 20 going once, going twice. Sold. The auctioneer yelled. The human stepped forward, paid the credits, and walked toward the stage. Leora looked down. Please don't hurt me, she thought. The auctioneer pushed her forward. She stumbled off the stage and fell to her knees. Her face hit the dirt. The human stopped beside her. She waited for a kick, or worse, instead. Something warm touched her shoulders. She looked up. The man was taking off his coat and putting it over her. Can you walk? He asked. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was careful. Leora didn't answer. She didn't believe it. Maybe he wanted her to trust him first, and then he would hurt her later. That's what others had done before. He bent down and helped her stand. The market stared in silence. Someone muttered, "What is he doing?" He didn't care. He guided her away slowly. No rope. No whip. Leora kept her eyes on the ground. She couldn't stop shaking. They walked through the busy street. Daniel, she didn't know his name yet, didn't say much. He only glanced at her once when she coughed from the cold. She thought of running, but she was too weak. And something told her he wouldn't chase her if she did. They walked past lights, alien music, and colorful buildings. She had no idea where he was taking her. Every step filled her with fear. He's taken me somewhere hidden, she thought. Somewhere dark, where he'll finally show his true face. They stopped at a transport station. Daniel helped her into an old hover truck. Inside, it was warm, clean. There were blankets on the seat. She stayed quiet. A small voice suddenly called out from outside the truck, "Dad!" A young alien child ran toward them, half human, half alien. A girl, green skin, short horns, big smile. "Dad, who's she?" The girl asked, pointing at Liora. Daniel replied gently, "Someone who needs help." The girl tilted her head and smiled at Leora. "Hi." Leora didn't respond. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Daniel helped Leora lie down. In the back seat. "Rest," he said. She tried to fight sleep, but her body gave in. As her eyes closed, her last thought was, why does he speak so softly? Why hasn't he hurt me yet? The first thing Leora felt was warmth, not pain, Not cold chains, but real warmth. Then. Silence. Her eyes opened slowly. She was not in a cage. She was lying on something soft, blankets. Her hands were free. Her legs were not tied. There was a soft light coming through a window. She smelled something strange. Clean air. She sat up fast. Where was she? Was this still a dream? Panic rushed in her chest like fire. Her body tensed. Her eyes searched for ropes, collars, cuffs, anything that meant slave. But there was nothing. Just her. Just silence. Then footsteps. Her heart jumped. The door opened slowly, and the human entered. Same long brown coat. Same tired face. He had a tray of food in his hands. "You're awake," he said gently. "You fainted." Leora pressed her back against the wall. Her hands clenched the blanket like a shield. "Eat," he said, placing the tray on the table nearby. "You haven't eaten in days." She didn't move. He didn't come closer. Leora watched him with sharp, fearful eyes. He looked old to her, older than most buyers. His hair had gray streaks, and his eyes were calm, but tired. He looked at her. Not like a man staring at a thing he owned, but like someone watching a storm from far away, careful, distant, unsure. "Where am I?" she whispered. "My home," he said. "A safe place." "No one buys slaves to make them safe," she said quickly. "What do you really want from me?" The man stayed silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "Nothing." She didn't believe him. No one ever wanted nothing. The room was small but clean. The walls were wood. There was a chair, a table, and even a soft rug on the floor. A small window let in light from the red sun above the city Leora had lived in. Dark cages for so long that it hurt her eyes. She watched the man step back. "If you want to leave the room, you can. No locks, no guards." He turned and walked out. Leora stared at the door after it closed. No locks, no guards. Was this a trick? She waited 10 minutes. Then 20. Still silence. Finally, she stood. Her legs were weak, but she pushed forward. She opened the door slowly. No alarms, no angry voices. Just a hallway. She walked quietly through the house. Her feet were bare, but the floor was warm. Her body moved on instinct, careful, slow, ready to run. She passed by pictures hanging on the wall. One caught her eye, a human man, the same man who bought her, smiling beside a tall alien woman. Their arms were around each other, happy, in love, and between them, a little girl, half human, half alien, the same girl who had called him Dad. Leora stared at the photo, her mouth opened slightly. Was this his family? She found him outside, fixing something on the small transport truck. He looked up. "You're walking," he said. She didn't speak. He wiped grease from his hands and pointed to a bench. "Sit if you want." She didn't sit. Instead, she asked, "Why did you buy me?" He sighed. "Would you believe me if I said I didn't know?" She frowned. "I saw your eyes," he continued. "I've seen that look before, in the mirror." "You expect me to believe you're kind?" She snapped. "Humans. Aliens. Everyone in that market wanted only one thing. I didn't." "Then why did you come there?" His voice became low. "I was looking for someone I lost, someone who looked like you, until I realized she was gone forever." He stood and looked at her, not with hunger, not with power, but pain. "I couldn't save her," he said. "Maybe I thought saving you would help me breathe again." Leora didn't know what to say. That night, she sat in the same room. The food was cold now, but she touched it, then took a bite. Warm, real, not poisoned, not drugged. She ate quietly, slowly. Then, wrapped in the coat he gave her, she sat by the window and looked at the stars. She thought about chains, about beatings, about cold, metal floors. And now, a blanket, a warm home, a little girl who smiled at her. Maybe it was still a trick. Maybe tomorrow he would hurt her. But for the first time in years, she wasn't in a cage, and that made her wonder something dangerous. What if this human wasn't like the others? Leora had never seen a window before, not a real one. In the slave cages, there were no windows. Just walls, steel, shadows, darkness. But here, in this small room, there was a window, and outside that window, light. Not burning floodlights, not prison spot beams, but soft light, golden, warm, and peaceful. A garden swayed in the breeze. There were birds, and something even stranger, freedom. She pressed her fingers against the glass, unsure if it was real. It didn't shock her. It didn't burn. It just stood there, a clear barrier between who she was and what she might become. The door creaked. Daniel entered with quiet steps. He carried clean clothes, a towel, and a small glass bottle. "Warm water's ready," he said. "Thought you'd like a real bath." Leora didn't respond. She stared at the window. He placed the clothes on a chair and set the bottle down. It had a soft smell like flowers. "You don't have to thank me," he said, as if he knew she wouldn't. He walked out again, leaving her alone. Leora stared at the towel. A bath? In the past, water had meant punishment. Ice-cold hoses, dirty basins, rough hands. But this smelled like peace. Still shaking, she walked slowly toward the small washing room. And for the first time in years, she touched warm water, not for pain, but for healing. When she came out, she was clean. Her hair, once tangled and greasy, now fell like silver over her shoulders. She wore the new clothes, simple, soft, no chains. She stepped back into the room and found something strange on the small table beside the bed. A steaming cup of tea. Liora blinked. Her nose caught a hint of spice and honey. A note was next to the cup, written in simple, careful words. "You are not property. You are a person." Her hands trembled as she read it again and again. Was this another trick? Was he training her with kindness now? She didn't drink the tea. Not yet, but she didn't throw it away either. That evening, Daniel knocked once and stood in the doorway. He didn't come in. "May I ask your name?" he said. Leora looked at him. Her heart pounded. But she spoke. "Leora, Leora," he repeated. "Nice to meet you." That simple sentence made her chest tighten. Nobody had ever wanted to know her name before. Not since she was taken. Didn't ask anything else. He simply nodded and said, "If you ever want to talk, I'll be outside. Or, if you want silence, I'll give you that too." He left. Leora sat by the window again. The stars were coming out. She whispered to herself, "What is happening to me?" Hours passed. She heard the small girl again, Daniel's daughter, laughing in the other room. So free, so safe, so loved. Leora didn't remember how that felt. She touched the note again. "You are not property." She wanted to believe it, but fear was stronger than hope. Always had been. Later that night, a dream took her back. Chains, screams, hands pulling her, beatings, darkness. She woke up crying, her breath fast and panicked. The door opened fast. Daniel stood there, but didn't come closer. "Nightmare?" he asked. She nodded, tears running down her face. He didn't touch her. He just knelt outside the doorway and said, "You're safe here, Leora. No one will ever hurt you again." She wiped her tears and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He looked into her eyes and replied, "Because someone should have done it for my wife. And didn't." And then, he left her alone. Not locked, not watched. Just trusted. Liora sat up in bed, hugging her knees. She looked at the window again. And for the first time, she didn't just stare at it. She smiled at it, not because she was free yet, but because something inside her had started to believe it might be possible. Leora found the photo by accident. It was hidden behind a stack of old books in the corner of the hallway. Dusty, bent, but untouched. She only picked it up because it fell when she tried to clean something. She did now to feel useful. She wiped the frame and froze. In the picture, Daniel stood beside a tall alien woman with golden skin and soft eyes. Between them, a small girl with half-human, half-alien features was laughing with her arms stretched out. Leora stared at it for a long time. There was so much love in that photo. Too much love for a man who bought a slave. She didn't tell Daniel she found it. She just sat by the window again, thinking he wasn't like the other men. That much was clear, but that didn't mean he wasn't hiding pain. Pain could change people, and the man in that photo was not the same as the man who walked these halls, now tired, quiet, alone. What had he lost? And why did he choose her to save? That night, the storm came. Rain slammed against the roof. Thunder growled. The lights flickered. Leora couldn't sleep. Her old fear returned with every flash. Lightning reminded her of shock collars. Thunder of angry voices. She sat in the corner of the room, hugging herself tightly. Then, a soft knock. Daniel. He didn't enter. You okay? He asked through the door. I'm fine, she lied. I can bring you some warm tea. I don't want tea, she snapped. Silence. Then, his voice, lower now. Do storms scare you too? Leora didn't answer, but her hands tightened. I used to watch storms with my wife, he said. She loved the sound of rain. I hated it. Why? Leora asked quietly. Because it always meant something was breaking. Later, when she finally opened the door, he wasn't there, but the tea was still warm. She drank it this time. The next day, Leora asked him something bold. Your daughter, is she still alive? Daniel paused. His hand stopped cutting vegetables. He didn't look at her. He only said, she was sick. They said it could be treated, but the hospital refused her because she wasn't fully human. Leora felt her stomach twist. She died? She whispered. He nodded once. She was 5. The room was silent for a long time. Then Leora spoke very quietly. That's why you looked at me like that when I was on the auction stage, because you saw her in me. No, Daniel said. I saw you. But it reminded me what it feels like to watch someone suffer and do nothing. That evening, Leora had another nightmare. This time she screamed. In her sleep, she woke to the sound of footsteps running. Daniel again. She backed into the corner, expecting to be hit. Her body still worked like a slave, but he didn't hit her. He sat near the door and waited. I can't erase your past, he said, but maybe I can help you build something new. Tears slipped from her eyes. Why would you want to? He looked at her, really looked at her. Because I know what it's like to need saving and find no one. For the first time, Leora crawled toward him, slowly, not as a slave, but as a person wanting to understand. She sat across from him on the floor. They didn't speak. They just listened to the storm. 2 broken souls, finally sitting in peace. The knock on the door did not sound kind. It was sharp, cold, official. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. Leora froze mid-step, holding a cup of tea. Daniel's daughter, Mira, stopped playing with her wooden blocks. Her small eyes looked toward the door with confusion. Daniel stood still in the kitchen, his hand on the counter. His face changed. The warmth left his eyes. He didn't move for 3 seconds. Then quietly he said, Leora, take Mira into your room. Now Leora didn't argue. Something about his voice made her legs move. Fast. She picked up the child and hurried down the hallway. 2 alien officers stood at the door. Tall, armor-clad, their faces hidden behind helmets. The logo on their uniforms was from the city patrol, but Leora had seen their kind before, too many times. Buyers, enforcers, thieves in uniforms. Daniel opened the door without fear. One officer stepped forward. We received a report. Someone said a former slave was seen at this residence. Daniel didn't blink. You've been misinformed. She was bought illegally, the second officer said. Not registered, no transfer papers. That's against city law. I didn't buy a slave, Daniel replied. I brought someone to safety. The officers exchanged looks. She's still considered property, the first one growled. Unless made legal. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? Marriage, the officer said bluntly. If she's bonded to you by city law, she becomes your family. Not a slave, Daniel's jaw tightened. And if I don't? The officer looked past him toward the hallway. Then we take her back. Leora stood behind the wall, listening. Her hands shook. She wasn't supposed to hear that. But she did. Take her back. Her body went cold. Her breath stopped. She remembered the cage, the whip. The darkness. No, she thought. I can't go back. I can't survive it again. She almost ran. But Myra's small hand gripped hers tightly, and somehow, that held her in place. Daniel returned to the room a few minutes later. His face was calm, but his shoulders were heavy. They'll come back in 3 days, he said, to check your status. Leora looked at him. Her voice came out small. They want to take me, yes. Will you let them? Daniel shook his head. Not if I can help it, she swallowed hard. They said you could marry me. He nodded. It would make you free. Leora laughed, but it wasn't joy. Free? By being bonded again? Just with a prettier chain? Daniel stepped closer. This would not be a chain, he said. It would be your choice. Silence. Then he added, if you want to leave this house now, I won't stop you. You can walk away. You're not mine. You never were. Leora didn't reply, because in that moment, she didn't know what she wanted, only what she feared. That night, she stood outside under the stars, barefoot on the soft grass. The wind moved gently through the trees. She whispered to the sky, I don't want to belong to anyone. But I don't want to be alone, either. Behind her, Daniel stood in the doorway. He didn't say anything. He just let her speak to the night. The next morning, Leora stood at the kitchen door. Daniel was already awake. She took a breath and said, if I say yes, it won't be because you saved me. He looked up. It will be because I choose to stay. Daniel nodded slowly. That's all I want. Leora didn't sleep the night before the patrol's return. She didn't cry either. Instead, she sat in front of a mirror, staring at herself. Not at her bruises, not at the past, but at her eyes. They were different now, not broken, not scared. Just searching for the woman she could become. And for the first time in years, she whispered to her own reflection, you decide what happens next. By morning, she was already dressed. Not in chains, not in a slave's uniform, but in a soft blue tunic Daniel's daughter had chosen for her. It didn't scream power. It didn't scream fear. It simply said, I am here because I choose to be. Daniel found her in the garden, barefoot, watching the sunlight move through the flowers. He stood beside her and asked gently, did you sleep? She shook her head. No. He nodded. Me neither. Then he asked the question carefully, like a man who didn't want to scare her away. Have you made your decision? Leora turned to him, calm but strong. I don't want to belong to anyone. You won't. I don't want to be saved. You weren't. I just want a place where I can choose to stay. Or leave. Daniel smiled, soft and sad. Then stay, not as a slave. Not as a wife, if that word scares you. Just as Leora. When the patrol returned, they expected tears. They expected to find a trembling alien girl hiding in a dark room. Instead, they found her standing beside Daniel at the front door. Straight-backed, eyes forward. Status? One officer asked. Almost smirking. Daniel replied, she is now under legal protection. Bonded by choice. The officer raised an eyebrow. Bonded? Marriage? Leora stepped forward before Daniel could answer. No, she said firmly. Not marriage, not yet. But I've chosen to stay with rights, not chains. The officers exchanged looks. You filed the paperwork? One asked. Daniel handed over a small card with the city seal. All signed this morning, he said. The patrol couldn't argue. The law was clear. After a few cold stares, they left. Leora watched them disappear down the road. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until it came out like wind escaping the cage. That evening, the house was quiet again. Daniel stood at the stove, cooking something simple. Mira played in the corner with toy animals, humming a song. And Leora? She sat at the table, reading a book she found in his library. Peaceful, whole, human. Later, as they sat on the back porch watching the sky, Daniel said something unexpected. You don't have to stay forever, you know. Even now, you're still free. Leora looked at him. I know. Then she smiled, small but real. I'm not here because I owe you, Daniel. I'm here because I see a life worth building. His eyes softened. That's more than I ever hoped for. She reached out and took his hand. Not with fear. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Leora stood in the rain without fear. No chains held her back. No voice shouted commands. She simply stood there, arms wide, letting the drops wash over her face like a quiet blessing. For the first time in her life, the rain didn't mean punishment. It meant peace. It meant freedom. Inside the house, Daniel watched her from the window. She was smiling, truly smiling. And that alone made all the years of his own pain feel lighter. It had been 3 weeks since the patrol left for good. No one came looking for her again. No one tried to take her away. Leora had slowly made the house her own. She helped in the garden. She read to Mira. She added tiny touches to every room, a painted vase here, a handmade curtain there. Life returned to the walls. Daniel didn't ask for anything in return. He never tried to own her. He just let her be. And that's what made her stay. One afternoon, while sorting books in Daniel's small library, she found a journal, worn leather, torn pages, his handwriting inside. She didn't open it yet, but she held it close to her chest and whispered, maybe one day, you'll let me read your pain. That night, after Mira fell asleep, Leora and Daniel sat outside again, under the stars. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was full. Comfortable. He looked at her hands. Now steady, now strong. She looked at his face, still tired, but softer now. He spoke first. When I first saw you, I didn't think I was saving anyone. She replied, and I didn't think I'd ever trust anyone again. Daniel turned to her. Do you still feel like a slave? Leora took a deep breath. Then she said clearly, no, I feel like someone who was lost and finally found. A small pause. Then she added, you didn't fix me, Daniel. You gave me a place to fix myself. And those words meant more to him than anything he had heard in years. Later, as they walked back into the house, Mira sleepily called from her bed. Daddy, is she our family now? Daniel looked at Leora. He didn't answer. Leora did. Yes, Mira, if you'll have me. The little girl smiled and turned over. Weeks turned to months. Leora planted a new tree in the backyard, symbol of her new beginning. Daniel carved both their names into a stone beside it, with Mira's two. Not as slaves, not as masters. Just a strange little family who chose each other. One evening, Leora took Daniel's hand and placed it gently over her heart. I was nothing before, she said softly. Not even a name. You were always something, Daniel replied. You just needed someone to see it. She leaned in closer. Then thank you for seeing me. And under the soft light of twin moons, the girl who was once bought for nothing became everything.